next door, like mean.
Around. Do other folks have questions, comments, concerns? Member Barnett.
So I'm one of those early adopters. Hold on, let me get a picture of this. I want to submit this right now. Broken microphone.
Yeah, I think somebody
So
has
I
already
was an
created a
early
ticket.
adopter, and I was all excited. So I submitted on the storm drain that floods on Mendocino in front of our office every rainstorm. And so I submitted it. And what's interesting as I went and just looked, oh, there's comments. So the system generated a report 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And then a year ago moved from in progress to completed. And the only thing about that is it still floods every year. Like it hasn't been resolved. And so I'm trying to figure out from a resident standpoint, when I tried this, the issue was never resolved. It looks like the app has recognized it as, well, we took care of it. And it's like, no, you didn't. It floods every year and it floods all the way out across Mendocino Avenue. And it is a huge headache for all the businesses in that area. So I'm trying to figure out what happens after you've sent it through the app. If your issue doesn't get resolved, what's the next? What do you do next is my question.
I'll take that.
I can talk from a technical perspective, but long part of the process.
Yeah. So first off, this app is meant to collect information throughout the city. It's imperative that we hear from residents. The whole reason it was implemented is to get feedback. And while there's multiple ways to get feedback on social, on our website, those tools are very specific for providing information. My son of Rosa is to exactly your point. It is the core feature of making sure we understand issues that come in. I can't speak on this one particular thing, but in general, when they come in, they're supposed to go to the department that would deal with whatever the particular issue is. Normally, protocol is if something can't be resolved, or if it's just, someone's like, hey, this road is whatever, bumpy, and they're going to pave it, or they're going to pave it. Normally, they would provide comments. So, but in this case, if it's something that it just floods every time and nothing's getting resolved, normally even that they would put some kind of notice in versus just closing it. Let's chat after. I'd like to see that as to why that particular issue was submitted and then just closed out. And because even normally when you close something out, you do submit some notification to the person that's submitting it so they know what action was taken. Even if we came and looked at it, this is an ongoing issue. It does flood once or twice a year. We've there's nothing we could do. I mean, whatever the piece is, there's normally a feedback loop as a part of our process and protocol. Real quick too, because back to early adoption, I know originally when this app rolled out, there was like tech things we were working out. So I don't know when you submitted it, but I definitely know over the past couple of years, IT has worked on all the issues and really resolving some of the process pieces and working with departments to make sure that things that come in get resolved. And it really comes back to the communication from the city and the service providers that do that type of work. It's so just let me talk a little bit about the process piece. For something to get put into the system, and I'll use the membranous issues as an example, that gets turned on in a particular issue. That was only created and turned on because I worked directly with IT to work on that particular piece, knowing that we are the end user and responsible to respond in those situations. So when somebody submits it in, our team in that situation is going to say, thank you for this, we got it, we're whatever we're going to do, but there is a notification beyond just the flag that says 1482, your ticket submitted, success, to address the same thing that you're talking about. So some of it's a process piece as to how we work through departments that facilitate those requests, like a lights out one goes to a particular department, tree removal goes to those departments. And so when we, as the city communications or see issues that they're not responding, then that's when we'll get involved and try to work that out. But it's important that we respond. It's the reason we have this out there is to communicate and make sure that we're being responsive as a city for sure.
Thank you.
Member Diaz de Leon.
On that note, I have a follow-up question because I do think it's important to be responsive as things come in. And then at the same time, I'm seeing things like pictures of vegetation growth in Fountain Grove, and they're saying they should be cut back. So my question is around what gets prioritized, because I'm seeing vegetation growth, on sidewalks everywhere, and it's not necessarily being submitted everywhere, but are the ones that are submitted prioritized? Do those areas get an upper hand because somebody submitted on the app versus a place where nobody took a picture and took the time to submit it? Or how does that essentially get taken care of throughout the city?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find out. Because I mean, to that, if somebody is submitting something on an app, you think, hey, being responsive. I do know the Public Works and Parks Department are like definitely working in high gear to address weeds throughout the city. In addition, the city just launched a Clean Santa Rosa, it's a beautification program to try to help resolve that. Working with fire very closely on like a lot of the communications. It's kind of a double whammy. We got all this rain and then it stopped for a while and then it rained again. So it's like even stuff that we went and already addressed or cut down has then come back twice. And so, but back to your question, I don't know how it's prioritized, but I will find out and report back at the next committee as to like what that looks like. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And dovetailing off that, I assume this app does have multiple language options. Like people can, see it in Spanish if they need to see it in Spanish.
I do not believe that's the case.
Yeah, we might want to look into that one.
Well, so just to be clear, but to back up, on the web app part, like on the actual iOS and the like from a platform standpoint, it's a single download. I believe it's in English in both standpoints. On the web app, you can switch. And I'll talk about it on the other app that we're doing tonight, but I believe you can switch over through Google Translate into that to see it in that and to submit it in that.
Yeah, most people obviously I think predominantly are on their phones, and when these things come up are going to use their phones. So if that isn't the case, definitely would advise looking at that so we can get that option integrated into the phone and maybe, even beyond just Spanish. Obviously, we have a lot of cultures here.
Indeed. Brian and I work very closely together. We'll talk offline after this meeting about what that looks like. I just don't know the complexities of if it's an entire new app that each language would have to download. And we do work with a third-party provider. What is this?
Yeah, so this is the app, actually, the website, as well as a third party that we get from a software vendor called Excella that we use for our permitting side, but they also are the ones, this used to be a product called Public Stuff that they purchased. And I don't believe that it's available in other languages. I'm going to research that. I don't think it's an option from them. So we would have to look at, either talking to them about potentially doing that or looking at something else. 'Cause I don't think that it's an option today. And certainly, like Lon said, the Google Translate, it's a good point, and we should test that out. We might have, if Jake was here, he might be able to answer that question. But I would have to either ask him or test it out. So we'll follow up on that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I only asked that because, member Diaz de Leon raises a very good point in the sense of there could be a fair amount of inequity if a more vocal neighborhood is the one that's always getting kind of the work done in their little area as opposed to another one who might not even know about the app. So, equity needs to be centered in all things that we do as a city and the community. So that's wonderful. I know I kind of took over the microphone there. Member Lange?
Yeah, I would just say, I think this kind of brings up some of the communications pieces we've talked about over time. I remember, was it January, I brought up the shrubs along Marlowe before you get between Steel and Pioneer and how it impacted visibility. And ultimately, after this meeting, they came and cleared the brush a few weeks later, and this was in January. Well, 2 weeks ago, there was a major accident. A young woman tried to cut in front of a bus, and she couldn't see that there was another vehicle on the other side, and they all got creamed because the shrubbery was 6 feet tall. And while they were clearing the accident, here comes the what do you call it? The ag crew clearing all the brush all the way down, all the way to Guerneville Road and the Center Divide. And so, had I known that all this was available in the app, I mean, I feel like I failed my community by not knowing that. But also, I remember calling the city, and the person was like, "You just have to submit it online," but they couldn't express or articulate clearly to me where online. And I was looking for something not this. And then I would say, even on my street, our street lights are always out. We have a bunch of our unsheltered community members who take coverage in trees in people's yards. And so it'd be nice to not get spooked if you're outside when it's dark. Not reportable, but to know when to report your street light. And I even remember calling Public Works and saying, "Okay, what do I do?" The person was not able to articulate to me the steps to take to make the request. And then after, I think my dad, because he's persistent, called like 7 times, she basically told him, like, "You need to stop calling, your call's in the queue and you're going to have to wait." So their light didn't get replaced for almost 4 months. So it had a huge dark blind spot in our neighborhood that, made everybody a little concerned for their safety. And so neighbors' porch lights were on that all had to be replaced because there was no street light available. But nobody was patient enough to say, "Hey, sir or ma'am or community member person, this is how you go through the system to make a request." And I feel that if the move for the city is to move everything here, then I think there needs to be some like customer service like training for those answering the phones to be able to articulate and express to people how you want to collect those tickets. My parents are old school, they're traditional. They're gonna call, they're gonna look for a phone number, and they're gonna dial. And I think many folks in the communities we live amongst are gonna do the same, especially those that are not using anything technological.
Yeah, and I will speak from the city standpoint, whether you're on the app or you call in, you should receive the same level of service. And to that, we normally don't do a digital only service. I mean, you can walk in to a counter, call and or email or use an app. I mean, I think this is across the city. Those are like standardized pieces, but was the light ever fixed? Okay.
Some quick follow on. Member Lang just made me think of a couple things. First and foremost, possibly as part of the package that we did, I think it was the civic videos that we did. Perhaps what we could do is something similar, well, not similar, but in the sense of create videos both English and Spanish, just like what Mr. Tickner just did for us. Maybe like a really truncated, quick, speedy version of what you just gave us, so that people can navigate through it. Because some people rely on videos. I am one. I'm very much a visual learner. I mean, I can read, obviously, but visual is always the preferred option for me. And so I think, just some easy videos would be really great. And then, I often find in both, my professional capacity and then just generally speaking, people don't like clicking through a lot of things. If you look at like emails, sometimes it's crazy how low the click-through rate is on like your emails you're sending out for your organization. But if you put the content there without any links, they'll read it. It's this weird phenomenon. So the reason why I bring that up is because it begs the question of, is the placement of where this link is to report a problem, is that the best place we could put it? Is it something that should be front and center on the website, since this is something that could really serve the community? Should we bring it to the front of the website? Is there a better way to display it and make sure that people can find it right away?
So first answer to that is 100%. I'm currently in the middle of a web redesign. We kicked it off with our vendor, so you could expect to see a new website closer to the end of the year. And there is many areas for improvement that we are working on. But this is a great example. I bring up, Cal, is that this, in this case, it's in addition to the mobile app, it is also a web app. And so there is lots of places to find it, but ultimately you should be able to find it very quickly. When you do go into the mobile app, that normally is front and center. Brian adding that crisis communication piece puts that to the top, because in the middle of an emerging issue, that would be the first thing you see because you're going in there. But otherwise, that'll go away. So as soon as we're done with this meeting, he'll turn it off, and then it'll kick back up. So it is that. But I think it's both the combo of, like you're saying, how to find it easy on the phone, and also when you're on the website, it's like, what do I report an issue? So one of there'll be more action item menus in the future based on what we're remapping the navigation on our website. The second part of that was the videos. I 100% agree. We can definitely work on that. I'll bring something back to the next team meeting and kind of talk through that, whether we have it done, at least work on some scripts, and we can work with IT to make that happen for sure. I think that's a great, especially on social, to your point, it's much more engaging, make it quick, easy, and just informative to educate people on hey, there's a really quick way to do it. I just would say also then the follow-up to that is the city needs to remain responsive since we're asking people to give us information in this way.
Yeah, it all sounds great. I'm excited about the web redesign. I know we participated many, many years ago in CAB in helping design it from what it used to be, which was terrible. It's better, but now it needs even more improvements because technology moves fast. So excited to hear we're updating again. That's great. And thank you. I look forward to hearing all your updates later. I'm going to look back to my fellow members. Are there? Oh, Member Inocencio.
I just have a few quick questions. So I guess a comment first. I think the app's really cool. I hadn't seen it before, so pretty cool thing. But then, are we tracking how many people use it, and is that slowly moving up, or is it staying the same? Are we promoting the app at all?
I can talk to are we using it? Maybe Long can talk to the promoting part of it. But so we do track usage. We've actually just high level numbers since we went live on this in December of 2021 on the website, the web piece, and then we did the mobile app more in about May of 2022. So it's been live for about a year. We've had 6,052 issues submitted through it to date. 1,981 are related to streets and ADA, 942 around abandoned vehicles. So those are, roughly half are around those two categories, although the streets and ADA includes many subsets. And then we also know that about 82% of our users are actually using the website right now, which is interesting information. 13.3% use the iOS devices on an iPhone, and about 4% Android. And then I don't have the numbers with me, but we do have the exact number of users and when they registered and things like that as well. But it is continuing to get used. And we do have plans to roll out more categories too as time goes by. So we're working with other departments. When you go there, some cases will say contact this phone number, and we're working with those departments to roll this out, like I said, in here as well. So should be
And
working.
so on the promotion side, we do write stories and publish information on our website and social on it. But to Chair Weeks' point, we'll definitely work with IT to do some more video stuff to promote it even further.
All right, thank you.
I know when we
You're
first launched it too, it was in a newsletter, but honestly, it was kind of buried. It was a busy newsletter with a lot of information. It was toward the bottom. And that was about a year ago. So it might be time to push something out there as well again.
For sure. Thank you.
Do other folks have any questions, comments? I do have one more, and then I promise I'll be done. An example across from, well, I still call it the Press Democrat building because I don't know what the hell to call it. But across the parking lot that's in between us and the other building, there's been graffiti on about the second story behind a tree for several weeks now. And so my question is, and remind me, because I can't remember, would the city come out and remove that, or is it incumbent on the building owner to do that? Oh, it would be the building owner. Yes. 100%. Okay. That's good to know.
I have a question about if there's reporting, through the phone and then also through the app. Would you ever consider updating the app so that it reflects what's been reported by phone? So that someone doesn't have to, I don't want to report something that's already been reported.
So typically, and it does vary right now by department, but a lot of times when somebody calls in, there's a back end to this application. The staff keys it in, and then it shows up on the app for the public, and as long as they mark it as public. So in many cases, the actual system that is used to track this information is this system that gets keyed into. Having said that, probably our largest service request system / work order system in the city is a system called CityWorks, which is in the process of being implemented, but it's been live with public works issues and several others for over a year now. And this is tightly integrated with that. And so really what happens is when somebody submits an issue through this app, if it's one of the departments like Public Works, for example, that works with the CityWorks work order system, those items actually automatically through a real-time, almost real-time integration gets sent over to that CityWorks system where it issues work orders. So it actually flows with their business process flows. And then if they get a call, it depends on the department, but some of them key it directly into CityWorks. And when that happens, it basically pushes a copy to this system so that all of those items are represented for the public to see what's out there. So there's a couple of other side systems that other departments are using that we're still trying to work through, but the big ones are really the CityWorks system and this one are the two main systems that staff use. And so when they get that call, instead of putting it in a spreadsheet or send somebody an email, the processes are for most departments are to get it into a system.
And you also mentioned that map, I think it has the 30 or 60 latest incidents. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I noticed there's someone on there reporting it 5 or 6 times. So what if some guy comes in and says, I find all these things wrong, and then all his reports are at the top of the list and aren't appearing on the map, and then other people's aren't addressed.
Yeah, well, so a couple of things on that. So we, I don't want to speak for the other departments and speak inaccurately. So I'm going to let, Lon continue the process of following up on how they're responded to. I do know how some of the departments work, though. Typically, if it's a safety issue, they're looking at those items first. They don't at all. I don't think there's any department that looks at it based on like which ones are at the top of the list, so to speak. And that's why the filters come into play. Really, the map that we see that I demonstrated is not really used by city staff. It's really more for the public to see where those issues are coming from, where they're being submitted. But once again, when it goes to, for example, that city work system, they have processes in place there on how it's prioritized. And like I said, it could have come in from the phone. It could have been a street crew, driving down the street saying, oh, that's, there's a pothole there that we need to get the pothole crew to work on. And so they get into the office and they'll key it in there. And so they have their own processes that once again, I don't fully know because it varies from department to department, but it's not based on order that things come in basically. And then also where it only shows those top 5 or whatnot, that's really, I don't know if we call it a limitation, but the way that software is designed from the vendor is it's not configurable. So you can only show 30. You don't have a choice to say 25, 300 or whatever, it's 30. And it's based on the latest, but that's why the filters would come into place, because you could then go into the filters and say, just show me all of the potholes or all of the streetlights out or those. And those are really what the different crews are looking at as their respective work as they work.
And or when you're zoomed into a location. So if you were like right here and there was a bunch of things submitted, you'd already see that something was submitted for the same piece. So like Brian's example of the street that had damage, if you were right there, you'd likely see multiple dots right where you were that you could click on and go, oh, it's already been reported. And my understanding is anything that's submitted double, they'll just come back and say, yes, thank you, it's been submitted, we're working on it. And, yeah, but I agree, it doesn't get reprioritized, it just comes in. And the priority does come in if there's a life safety issue, that definitely is prioritized immediately to police and fire or public works to address whatever's going on. And then it will secondarily address other issues that aren't directly life and safety.
All right, I am scanning the room here. Any other questions, concerns, hypotheticals? All right, I'm not seeing anything. So with that, we can move to public comment. Looks like we might have someone here in the room.
Gregory Farron. I made my gazillions writing software, and so I know how easily it is that what you write gets morphed into something someone else wants to use it for. So I'm going to suggest something that I know some people are working on that could easily use this. There are activists from 25 years ago who made great videos about Santa Rosa, about the history of Santa Rosa, about the streets in Santa Rosa, about lots of things that if you were on a website, you could learn about by going to YouTube. But some of them have discovered that you can make those videos on YouTube or wherever you're storing your stuff triggerable by the location you're at. So if I take my cell phone to a certain part of Santa Rosa, have the app, I can get the video about what this building history is all about. There's 13 houses on tunnel that have great videos all about it. We're in the process of trying to make it so that you're walking down the tunnel and trigger the video. So my question is, some of those folks discover this thing, decide to put some of their video on your map. So you don't use YouTube, you don't know how to do it, you don't have to hit the app that's designed for that history. Those folks are looking for some vehicle that display their history of Santa Rosa. They would your video engaging. My question is, are you open to having some of those things? Not emergency, not something that potholes, but it's going to be my Santa Rosa.
Yeah, based on the current platform from Excella, it's not really set up to receive videos and or information that others would then share. So it's not, at least from the reporting side. I don't know, I have to talk to Brian as to like if you could somehow add something in there that you could share information, but like most of that entire CityWorks app, which is Sell a Bot, was based on like a CRM that's really dealing with reporting issues. A lot of our stuff that we do from like the marketing and or history piece is like on our website and things like that. But I mean, I guess, you know, it could have info.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I don't know if it's necessarily right for this app, but that's a cool idea. I mean, if you're willing to display your location and allow yourself to be, you know, essentially tracked.
Yeah,
with
well,
GPS.
yeah, I mean, I back to, you know. Yeah, that's interesting to hear that. Yeah, I mean, as you're mentioning that, it makes me think of parks and just, you know, like what's available and location-based stuff. So that's really cool, actually. So
All
I'm
right.
not sure if this app is the right avenue, but it does pique my interest and I'll definitely look into what that
Great.
looks like.
And just to confirm, we have no one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom at this time, correct?
Excellent. Well, with that, we will proceed forward into item 5.2, Civic Ready Login Update. I'm assuming that's back to you, Lon.
It is. Thank you very much. 1 second. All right, just give me 1
And
second.
yeah, my colleague did just notice, I failed to thank you, Mr. Tickner, for coming today and providing that update. I do appreciate it. It was very good.
No worries. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss it and happy to answer any questions. I know Jake's contact information is on the slides. He's the one that supports the application on a daily basis, but happy to take you know, calls, emails, that kind of thing too, myself, if anything comes up.
Great.
And thank you for your comments as well.
Sorry to cut you off. Oh, sorry to cut you off there, Lon. Back to you again.
No worries. I'm pulling up my screen. Just give me 1 minute. All right, so I'm really excited about this. So this update is actually based on some conversations that we had at the previous advisory board meeting. Member Rodriguez highlighted the need for Spanish language to be available during the sign-up process for Civic Ready. We echoed her concerns at that meeting, and we also been working directly with the vendor to elevate this product feature request, which the vendor is Civic Ready. With the understanding is to build a translation functionality into the platform sign up form. So I'm happy to report that we did work with them and they made it a priority, worked with us to quickly resolve the concerns. As of last week, they implemented Google Translate as a drop-down menu, functioning much like our website, srcity.org functions. So you can see this. This is our main page for that. When all of our website is connected to the language translation setup. Now, when you go to the public sign up, the very first thing it has is the ability to change it to any of these particular languages. I'm going to go down here per what her request was, specifically Spanish. When I move down here, click it into Spanish, the entire page immediately turns into Spanish, which you can then go down and subscribe onto the website. Same thing is true over here. If you're trying to do just updates to your particular account, same thing, you could go in there and select the language and then it shows that you can log in and make edits to that account. So I just wanted to highlight that and also thank the committee for providing your recommendation. We took it seriously and did make updates very quickly. And that's my report.
All right, great. Thank you. Are there any comments, questions from my fellow advisory board members? I am not seeing anyone jumping up. All right, well, thank you so much for being so responsive. I'm sure the community thanks you as well. So really, really happy to see that. And well, without further ado, we'll proceed to public comment. Anyone on Zoom?
There's currently no one on Zoom.
All
public
right,
comment.
then we will move right along to item 5.3. This is the issues of concern to city residents and announcements. That was left off. I don't want to make that clear for my fellow members. So this is an opportunity for CAB members to report issues of concern to community members within their CAB areas and the city as a whole. So I will look to my fellow members. Member Diaz-León.
I have one issue of concern and then one announcement. I'll start with the announcement. Thanks, Lon, for mentioning Pride. I think that was one of Mayor Rogers's inclusions on there. So Pride is coming up. There's going to be several days of lots of activities taking place. And there is one specific event that I want to highlight here, taking place June 2nd at night, actually, at La Rosa. There's going to be a fundraiser for trans life. This is being put together by Pride and by Los 100, inviting anybody to attend and to participate in this kickoff to the Pride activity. So it's called Pride Fiesta al 100, June 2nd, starting at 9 p.m. at La Rosa, which is a restaurant in 4th Street. Now, in terms of the issue of concern, I appreciate the city for stepping up and making Cinco de Mayo happen. It was a rainy day, but people still came out, still celebrated. And that was really great to see how everything came together very last minute, but it was important and it was needed. One thing that did come up is the lack of parking. And that's something that is just, that's the way it is in Roseland and something that needs to be addressed, but specifically for community members coming out to celebrate, to enjoy. I heard of people that were towed because there was a lack of parking. And so that, creates a huge hardship for people who want to come out and participate and celebrate. And so I don't know if the city's going to lead it next year, but regardless, it would be important to address parking in one way or another, provide a way for people to get there so that they don't have to worry about being towed or getting a ticket. And I think that that's incredibly important, especially in Roseland, especially for that community.
I think in past years, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we were using, what is it, Rosie, the shuttle to help transport people from other areas that had parking to that area. And I don't think it was there this time, but I believe that was the practice. You'll have to check with your other colleagues, Lon, because don't quote me on that. I could be horribly wrong.
So at this point, the city's not planning on hosting the event again next year. It is somebody else's event. We'll let them take the lead if they're going to do that, and then we'll see where that goes. So, but at this point, I just want to make sure that that's clear. The parking and the transit piece is something that I'll be talking to our colleagues. And we're a part of that team that puts that thing on. So we'll be looking at that, and we have a year in advance to address the things you're talking about.
Is the city, because if it's a nonprofit group leading this event next time, is the city capable of bringing out Rosie the Trolley as a sponsorship? Is that legally allowed?
I'm not really sure. I would look into the city's transit efforts for that particular event next year. And as that event comes up, and if it gets submitted to the city for an actual event, we'll definitely look at that. But I'm not sure. I don't want to speak on behalf of transit yet, but based on just, the feedback here, I definitely think it will come up from us as to what we should be doing about it. So.
Yeah, even increasing bus routes for that day, making it, 10, 15-minute intervals from specific stops and, communicating that in advance so people can get on the bus and use it. So. Yeah, just a thought, but great point. Thank you for raising that. Member Lange.
So an announcement, in case you don't have it on your calendar, Juneteenth is June 17th. And it's a community-led event. For those who are not familiar with what Juneteenth is and why it's celebrated, it is the celebration of the last enslaved people in Texas who were finally notified that they had been freed 2 years prior to the pass of 1862 and 2 years after. And so this is celebrated as a part of Black liberation and Black communities coming together to, again, call for our own freedom and liberation, for which we are not often afforded in the current climate for which we live in today, especially in the community here in Sonoma County. One of the things that kicked off the event that we have here in its 53rd year was an act of protest. And South Park historically was where, the land in which Martin Luther King Park stands behind the fairgrounds and on that lot before the freeway was put in was originally a community where Black folks gathered. John Richards was a freed slave that came from Canada and owned the land. And unfortunately, because he didn't have any descendants, it quickly became a selling point to the highest realty bidder. And that is how we were able to build up a fairgrounds, a racetrack, a park and ride, a golf course, and leaving the crumbs of MLK Park with no parking and is chronically under maintenance and not managed. And so in the spirit of ensuring that the community was not erased, students from the NACP branch and from the MLK Celebration Committee and from the JC as an act of protest marched to that park to keep the city of Santa Rosa from bulldozing it as it was slated to do so. So the 53 years of the Juneteenth celebration in Sonoma County is one of the oldest in the state and in this region, and is a historical nod to ensuring more and more parts of Black community and Black history are not erased from our community. Sharing that to say it's a wonderful event in which we offer libation and honoring our ancestors and elders, the community members who have fought hard and been steadfast in community to ensure the erasure did not become successful, although it has been a difficult push, and to celebrate all of us coming together. All of the Black orgs come together to put this event on, and we do it with little to no funding because as many of the self-proclaimed equity champions we have, nobody provides us with any funding to make this event happen. So it is definitely as grassroots in nature as possible. And one that I hope you will find the time to join us. The march will happen again from Juilliard Park to MLK Park in honor of Vince Harper and his longstanding commitment to our community. So if you're interested in doing so, you can meet at the park at about 10 a.m. It's about an hour walk. It's a little over 2 miles and head on into the park, and the celebration will kick off at about 11 and goes to about 4 or 5 in the evening. Activities for youth, family, musical performances, basketball tournaments, and all types of good food will be available. Just a warning, parking will be an issue because there's no parking at that park, and it's the same weekend as Country Summer held at the fairgrounds. Some issues of concern are in some of our most historically marginalized communities, we have parks that don't have the infrastructure to support for these events to take place. And utilizing the city center, which would be a remarkable place to celebrate the rich histories and cultures that folks are wanting to bring and invite folks to take part in, is extremely cost prohibitive. The permitting, like you have to pay for the meters to be off if you're doing anything in the downtown area. The list goes on and on and on, and sort of the missed opportunity to have transit also be prepared and running on a more rapid pace so that folks could use those modalities to get to these events and participate. And while I don't think the city's in any position to recalibrate their event structure, it is very prohibitive to smaller organizations and community-led groups that are essentially trying to preserve history and culture. And we don't come in with a budget like Pride to charge people $150 for a table or $150 to participate in the fair, or the list goes on and on and on. We're small tomatoes and just trying to make things happen. And I think as community members, leaders, and folks who engage in these events, I think it's a really good opportunity for us as we head into continuing to think about what our priorities are, is really helping be a thought partner with the city around how some of the rules are really prohibitive and really prevent and don't allow for folks to engage in a full and authentic way. I mean, we live in a community that talks about equity being a pillar, and the fairgrounds has historically had an event that brings a pretty polarizing crowd when you have all the Black people at one park across from it. And for us, it's uncertain and it's scary. Last year, the headliner at the country summer event during that Saturday event was somebody who wrote racist rhetoric online and had people driving by yelling things at certain intervals during the day. And that's hard to live in a place where that is a reality, because people aren't even thinking about us, and they're not thinking about how those things impact when people are trying to show up. And so I say and share all that around how we can be better stewards of practice, engagement, and communication, because it can literally cause groups of people harm. My other issue of concern is around the lack of service and customer-based relations. I didn't share this last month because it was way too fresh, but I did share with Chair Weeks, the city manager, and assistant city manager. I got yelled at by the parking staff in the parking office. And I shouldn't have received a parking ticket, and it's probably the hill I'm gonna die on, but I don't care. It's the principle. The system that is the Park Passport app in relationship to paying at the meter, and then their system when they run to check for tickets, does not communicate. I paid for a meter. I was in transition between my paper plates and my permanent plates. Didn't realize that they were different because I haven't bought a car in a while. And in noting that, when you run someone's VIN number, it should pull up that it's the same car. Well, I still received a ticket. And when I had a series of unfortunate events that I had to deal with personally, and reached out to the city. There's no system or database to leave a note on your file. It's essentially, I was told, come to the field office and explain what happened, and you should be given a supervisor to speak with. And I was met with the exact opposite. First of all, the office is not private. You stand in a lobby with 3 other departments and everybody else talking about their issues with the respective divisions there. But also, I was fussed at before anybody looked at the paperwork and documentation that I brought. And then when I asked for a supervisor, I was told no. We're here to enforce parking and code and all these like barky policy, procedural, non-human things. And for me, that was a very off-putting experience. But as I shared it with other people, they highlighted that they had the same, that they experienced that same level of aggression. And to me, while I get the city makes millions of dollars off of parking, they won't be losing sleep over a $2.25 meter. And I think that speaks volumes to the lack of customer-oriented training and experiences that people are having. But as the only person of color in that office in that moment, and everybody was staring at these 2 white staff members yelling at me, I had to make a very serious choice in that moment. Because I could tell everyone else was ready to dial 911 had I responded in a way that would have been firm in advocating for myself. And I'm being gentle with recounting it, but it was extremely disturbing and extremely concerning. And when speaking with community members, they all have had similar experiences like that too. And you should be able to professionally advocate for yourself in our city buildings and businesses without being met with such aggression and assertion of policy and law when there was simply a clerical error and a systems error that could be explored and further identified.
All right, well, thank you so much, Member Lange. First and foremost, incredibly happy to hear that March will be in honor of Vince Harper again. For those that aren't aware, Vince Harper served on this board for a great many years and was a community champion for youth and a wonderful guy. So sad to lose him, but I'm happy to hear that we're still honoring his name. And then thank you for sharing all that other stuff. I was equally alarmed when she shared that information with me, and would definitely, I guess, encourage the city to further explore that issue and see what we can do to make some changes there. With that, I will look to the room. Do other folks have things they would like to share right now? Member Chen.
Yes, I'd like to share two pieces of information. One is on May 19th, I attended a healing concert. It's called the Asian American and Pacific Island Healing Concert at Paradise Ridge Winery. It's a good opportunity to see a lot of our, people from different ethnicities, Japanese, Vietnamese, people from Laos, people from China. It's a good event. I've been living here for 23 years, and it's my first time attending a event to see so many people. This month is the APIC Heritage Month, so it's good to see that in our community there are so many ethnic groups meeting together to celebrate the heritage. The food was good. The music, from the Filipino music, Japanese taikos, Chinese taiji, and also there's some fashion show and fan dances from Vietnam community. So next time, if there is similar activities, I do encourage everybody to enjoy the good food and music, and to see other, people from Asia Pacific. The second piece of information I want to share is this coming Saturday, we are organizing a educational seminar to help people understand how to prepare the kids for college. We are inviting the principal from Montgomery High School, Lori Fong, and a college admission consultant from the Bay Area, Susanna Wang. The address is at 741 4th Street. The starting time is 10 a.m. To 11:30 at the Sonoma Clean Power Advanced Technology Center in the downtown Santa Rosa.
All right, thank you so much, Member Chen. I never turn down good food and good times. So I look forward to you giving us updates on future events like that. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share with the group? Member Insincia.
Yeah, just a quick one. So on May 7th, the LC Allen Lobo Rugby Club, for which I help coach, had their final game of the season, and they were playing for the state championship I think on Cherry Island near Sacramento, and they won 27-12. So I just wanted to shout out the LC Allen Lobo Rugby Club for their undefeated season and winning their state championship in their division. So big shout out to LC Allen and the rugby club.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm looking again. I'm not seeing anyone. All right. Oh, go right ahead.
Since I wasn't here last month because I was in a bike crash, I found a chance to, this microphone.
I think we might need the microphone on just for recording purposes, correct? Sorry, yeah, I think we need that.
We're gonna try from this angle. So I wasn't here last month to let all y'all know that May is Bike Month, in addition to all the other things that May is. And normally I come around and let y'all know to pledge to ride for Bike to Work Day, pledge to ride your bike in May. And I didn't get a chance to announce to y'all that we're in partnership with Mike's Bikes, and we are actually doing a bike giveaway. So that if you do pledge to ride in May, if you do become a member of the coalition, if you did ride on bike, there's different ways to become a part of it. There's an opportunity drawing that we're going to do in June for a public commuter bike. So that was what I was going to announce in April. Didn't get a chance to tell you guys, but I do have pledge forms with me. I also have posters for any of you who want to bring them to your place of employment to be a bike-friendly business. And I do have one other advocacy thing. The organization I work for, the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition, for Bike Month, did an advocacy campaign around bike theft. It is a major issue in Sonoma County, and so we actively put out bike index placement stickers for people to put on their bikes with a actual what to do. It's a free app. It's free to register your bike with Bike Index. And when you go on the site to register, it tells you how many millions of dollars they have saved people by getting them their bikes back. The other half of this is we have been communicating with all of the law enforcement agencies throughout Sonoma County to let them know we're doing this. So if they find stolen property, i.e. a bike, and they look for this QR code, they can reconnect that person back to their bike. So I have a few here with me if anyone would like to take one at the end of the meeting. And that's what I have for you for this month. So there's 8 days left of Bike Month. I encourage you to go out and ride, strengthen numbers, and right. And we want bike-friendly businesses in this county. And I will talk with Member Land here about Juneteenth because I can't say Vince Harper's name without tearing up, but he was my vice chair, and he and I wrote this meeting as much as we could, and we would ride home together. So I will work with you on getting a bike ride together. Thank you.
I believe I'm still here, so I would love to bike in honor of Vince as well. So that would be wonderful. And thank you for sharing all of that. I have been biking to work all month, except for one day when I couldn't actually bike to work. It was bike to work day. I was in a leadership program. I'm sorry. But I have been enjoying my short and brief commutes to work in the morning. It's been very nice. It's been a lot like that actually in the morning. I've been all smiles. So anyways, if no one else has anything to share, I'll just briefly know, and Lon, he might have mentioned this, but first Saturday park cleanup, Prince Memorial Greenway, June 3rd, 10 a.m., 12 p.m. It's a lot of fun. A couple of us usually show up, have a great time. So I strongly encourage you to join us. And I think Ariana, our member Diaz de Leon covered Los 100 things. So that was all I had. So with that, I will look to offer up public comment. All right, anyone on Zoom? Just in case.
There's nobody on Zoom.
All right. Well, that being the case, we'll move to future agenda items. And right now it looks like we have listed district town halls, which is TBD, and the Santa Rosa General Update Alternatives, which is also TBD. Lon, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I actually, I think next time we'll talk about town halls. I've developed a framework that I want to share with this group as we move forward that kind of like solidifies like how we successfully do them and to try to get more people involved. And then I know we had talked about looking at the strategy and some other stuff. I guess it's just a matter of priorities for the group and if who's going to be here. Are we meeting?
Yeah, I would just note to everyone, we were thinking about doing it next month, but I'm on vacation and now it looks like member Marnette is also out of town. We're gonna make it work. One of us will be here virtually, or maybe both of us. We'll see how it plays out. But I'm assuming all of you have vacation plans over the summer as well. So it might be the case that we look to September potentially for the discussion of the strategy session. Does anyone have any thoughts, concerns about that? I know it's farther along than we had originally anticipated, but it's summer. I'm just assuming people are gonna, live their lives and go enjoy some of the warm weather. Does anyone have thoughts on that? Now's your chance. I'm not seeing anyone jumping the microphone, so I'm assuming everyone's okay with that. So we'll look to schedule that in September and we'll communicate.
Okay, so are you saying you want to not have the meeting next month and then roll one out, or?
Oh, no, we can still have a meeting next
Okay.
month. I have no problem with
Just
that. I
wanna
mean,
make- Okay, just want to
yeah.
make sure.
Are you both gone the same time?
Yeah, it would appear that that is in fact the case. And honestly, it's a 2-hour difference where it's not a big deal. It's the end of the day. Chances are I won't be doing a whole lot anyways. So it's totally good. It'll be fun. All right. Does anyone else want to add something to the agenda? All right, I'm not seeing anyone jumping immediately to the microphone, so we'll circle back with that outside the loop here. So with that, I can't remember, do we do public comment for this as well? Yes,
Yes.
then public comment, please.
I'd seen nobody on Zoom and nobody at the podium for public comment.
All righty then, we'll move right along, and I am looking to adjournment. We need a motion and a second.
Motion to adjourn.
All righty then, we are adjourned. Thank you everyone for being here tonight and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody.